Hello and welcome back to this week's LEAP Weekly Webinar. And I just want to appreciate everyone who's here live as well as those that watch this recorded in the future. I appreciate you being here, being engaged in your learning and your development, and knowing that setting aside just 2% of your whole day, think of that in the week, to just really develop yourself as a leader, as a team member, as an individual contributor to your workplace. It's very powerful to make sure that we continue to develop ourselves no matter what. And that's what this series is for here today. And so today what we're really going to focus on is unlocking the significance of clarifying goals on employee engagement. So what it's really about is that clarifying goals and how that truly affects employee engagement. And it is huge how much our goals can have an effect on our motivation, on our commitment. And so we're going to actually dive in and look at that. But I want to start with something just a little bit fun and easy because we all deal with it. But how many of us have set out a New Year's resolution? I know I have, right? I think we all have. Did you know that a lot of the research shows that 92% of New Year's resolutions are never fulfilled, never succeeded, never accomplished? 92%. Now think about that as you walk into your everyday goal setting, your tasks, your things like that. Why is it that we set aside this time, this New Year's resolution, to set these big, huge goals for ourselves that really are, in the moment when we write them, so very important, but then not follow through with them? And so we're going to really work on where is the connection between goal setting, clarifying goals, aligning goals, and employee engagement. And so I want to start off before we even get to the 2 points that we really want to make today. And I just want to talk a moment about these couple areas. First and foremost, a lot of these ideas from this actually came from a book that I read a few years ago called The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. Now, you can get it on Amazon, and it is a very quick, short read. It's not a long book, but it is well written. It has some powerful things on that significance, that importance, that vitality behind clarifying goals by aligning personal and professional goals together. And so just for a little context, the Dream Manager essentially follows his path into a company where it was a commercial cleaning company and they were really struggling with employee turnover. And so his goal was to come in and understand why was there low employee turnover and or high employee turnover and what was going on because of it. And what he experienced was that there were some things that these employees really wanted to be able to do. And it was as simple as buying a car, that they would have to have public transportation. It was really difficult to get to and from work, right? And then maybe it was financials at their house and so on and so forth. And they've actually found that most of it didn't much have to do with the company and how they were treating people. It had to do with people's outside personal life. And so what he did was he actually set up a system, which is now called the Dream Manager, where he appointed someone, the Dream Manager, whose goal was to sit down with these individuals and actually talk to them periodically throughout the year about what are your personal goals? How can the company help support those goals? What does working for the company do to help you achieve them? What can we actually do to help you achieve them? And keep those things aligned. And when they found out that someone's wasn't able to actually get to work, they went out, the company bought some vans and learned how to run a track that would allow them to pick up their employees and bring them to work. Further, maybe someone was buying the car, and as you read, it was about, okay, this company helped not only help them budget and learn how to budget, but also help them find the right lenders, to kind of give that verbal piece to the lenders and really help solidify that personal goal. And so when someone would be able to buy a car, look at the support they received from their company. And so this Dream Manager, this position, continued. And the whole goal of it was that we understand now that there's a lot more to life than work, right? We have so many more things going on. And when our companies care about us, when they invest in us, when they take the time to understand and care for us, it means the world to us. It makes us more loyal, more motivated, and more engaged. And that's what this really points to. And so before we even move on, there's things like SMART goals, right? That's something that we talk about. And that's not what we're going to focus on here today. But the idea that there's SMART goals, and that means they're specific, right? They're measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based, time-oriented. So we understand that, okay? We've been taught these things, but actually setting them out in that way is very difficult. And I can explain that to you because, I understand goal setting very well. That's something that we work on. But when I went through and I'm finishing up my master's in leadership development at Drake, and one of the things was working on training, coaching objectives, which is about essentially setting those goals that you'd like to see for the people that you're working with. And one of my toughest parts was about actually making sure that they were measurable, objective, and time-oriented. It was, you want them to learn this thing. Well, how are they going to demonstrate that they learn? How is this, that? And I found out that writing goals is such a bigger thing. And so making sure that you're setting goals that are realistic, time-based. For a personal example, setting a goal of, I want to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks. That all sounds good, but it's aimed at the wrong piece. So there's a lot of research in goals about, okay, look at your goals, look at what areas of your life you're trying to improve and how. And so when you can shift from, I want to lose 10 pounds to, I want to work out 3 times a week, and I want to feel better on the weekends, like I want to go do something. And I want to maybe nourish my body with some more fruit and vegetables, whatever your goal may be. When you can shift your mindset for goals into different ways, you're going to see yourself be more successful. And so the other part of this piece on SMART goals, Dream Manager, is areas and types of dreams. And I want you to consider this personally. When Matthew Kelly lays this out in his book, he actually has 12 areas that are looked at for goals. And so I'm going to read them to you, and I want you to think about how many of these have you considered when you wrote goals? Or how many of your goals are truthfully, I want to save $100 this month, I want to lose 3 pounds, and that's it. Those are the most important things to us. So I want to read these to you. There's 12 areas in Dream Manager. First is physical, emotional, material, financial, spiritual, psychological, professional, creative, adventure, legacy, and character. I want you to consider that as you move forward. When you set goals for yourself personally, am I hitting those areas? Or am I just setting out tasks? Am I just setting out short term? Really think about those things, because things like psychological, where do I want to be? Creative, what kind of things do I want to have around me to create? What are kind of things in that? Or maybe legacy or character. What kind of person do I want to be? How am I going to grow that person? And so I really want you to consider that, because as we move into this next part here today, it's going to focus on then how does this align to employee engagement? But a big part is that we understand that there's more to goals than just finish this project, meet this budget, satisfy this customer. There's a lot more to goals and aligning them. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is clarifying goals. And so first, personally, just as a question out there to all of you watching this live and recorded, how many of us have a vision board? How many of us have a yearly or just a big sheet with a bunch of goals on it? Some of us may, some of us might not. And that's the problem, is that until we actually clarify and are clear with ourselves on our goals, then we're never going to accomplish anything. And so I will tell you that from that personal experience I said earlier about like the losing weight, right? So when I wrote out I'm going to lose 25 pounds in this next 3 months, I never was successful. But when my fiance and I said, okay, we're going to rethink the way that we look at this. And instead we're going to create our vision board, which we did. And then we're going to write out some goals that are more around these 12 areas, right? We actually printed off these 12 areas and really actually went through and just jotted down some of the thoughts that came to mind when it was about the physical, the legacy, the character, the psychological, all those things, and the emotional. And so when we wrote those out, we have seen ourselves progress significantly. I'm way past my 25 pounds. And it was all because of the way that I analyzed and clarified my goals. Because my goal wasn't about losing 25 pounds. Because if your goal's about losing 25 pounds, then as soon as you lost it, you're done. But instead, it was about nourishing my body in a new way, creating a healthy lifestyle, working out at least 4 times a week. I mean, it was very easy things that were a life change that allowed me to live a healthier and more fulfilling life, to go on hikes, to enjoy things. And so what I challenge you to think about is Are you setting yourself up with these goals for long-term success or short-term gain? And so that's when you look at the personal side, is to really have those vision boards, have those things written out. But on the professional side, part of it is about being very clear, about clarifying the goals. And so the first and foremost is from a company perspective. Do you know your mission, vision, values, purpose? Do you know those? If you're a leader, are you clear about them and do you talk about them? If you're an employee, do you even know what they are? Too often I go to a conference and I'll sit in a room and I'll say, okay, raise your hand if you know your values, know your mission, things like that. And you'd be shocked that not as many people as you know the mission and values by heart. But those are what drive us. Those are what we should be using to create our goals. Because if one of our goals is that we're people-oriented or that we're compassionate, okay, then when we set our goals, they can't all be about make sure financially we make the most money. Like we're not looking at compassion, we're not looking at people-oriented, right? So knowing your mission, vision, values, and purpose is so important. And then as a team, actually understanding the why. Why is my team formed? Why is my job important? What can I do to support that? And lastly, think about, as we look at problems in business, a lot of the goals we put forth are, okay, we're going to start a new project or initiative. We really have some goals we want to meet with it. Well, one of the major problems is we oftentimes think we know where we want to go, but we're not very clear. We haven't clarified the actual problem. Because if we can't clarify what the issue is, then we can't clarify what the goal is, right? There's a gap between where we are now and where we want to be. But that's another thing, is making sure that we're really clear about, here's where we are, clarifying. And this is then what we can clarify is where we want to be. So when it comes to clarifying goals, I would highly consider, first personally, just sit down, do some reflection, write out some things, actually think about what are those goals you want to do. And once you've got those, then say, okay, how do I start with the next small step? What does today look like to meet those goals? You know, it's the whole idea that Rome wasn't built in a night, right? Like it takes time to build habits and goals. And so when you say, I want to live a healthy lifestyle, then it is about today. Going back to that goal, which when I talked about mine, we have our sheet and we take that sheet and every week we sit down and say, okay, for each day, how are we going to accomplish those bigger goals? And it may be that we plan out where are our 5 workouts for the week. And we might have to go, oh my gosh, we have this going on this night. We can't work out. So now we got to figure out how to fix it in another day. And so you actually do that. And then when you're consciously planning, we're going to the store planning for it, right? And professionally, when I'm sitting around at night, or if I'm riding in the car for a 2-hour trip, when I actually set out my week, I say, one of the things I really need to do is read that book. I really needed to understand that better. And I said, okay, I'm going to take those 2 hours in the car ride. And we set it aside and we plan it. So where are we now? Where do we want to be? And the second part is about actually aligning goals. So once we've clarified them and everything, that's great, but aligning goals. And one of the biggest parts is that we feel most satisfied, most fulfilled, most meaningful in our lives when our dreams, our goals, our aspirations align with what's going on with who we are as a person. And so aligning our company and our personal goals is so very important. And so it's about looking at how do they actually fit together. And in the Dream Manager, one of the suggestions is if you're a leader, when you have those performance reviews, when you have some of those actual formal meetings, sitting down and really understanding what is someone going through personally? What would they really like to aspire to? You don't need to get all personal with people, but being able to say, oh yeah, I'm saving to buy my son a car, or I'm saving to buy my own car, or I'm really saving for us to have a down payment on a house, whatever it is. You're starting to understand where they are, and then we are able to fit and align some of our things, and we can tie them back to certain areas. And so by actually understanding some of our goals, our vision, our mission in life, right? So maybe your mission is to make a difference in people's lives. And so when your supervisor or you as a supervisor know that for someone else, the way that you can acknowledge and appreciate someone completely changes, right? Because we're in alignment. We understand that a personal goal is to make a difference. And as a company, look at what we just did. And so those are the types of things we need to set out and actually find out. So that's how we actually make sure that how are our company and our personal goals aligning? How are their values aligning? Another one is about ownership. And I had a teacher in my program that talked a lot about the fact that buy-in isn't enough. Ownership is what we need. And we take ownership of what we truly believe in, of what we truly aspire to be. And so by aligning those company goals with our personal goals, that's where you get success. And so don't, as a leader or even as a team member, make anyone feel bad if what their goals in life are not to succeed to be the director or the manager of some department. What if their goal is just, I love my job here and I want to be home for my family by 6 o'clock every day. That's what's important to me. Then respect that and say, oh my gosh, how can they be the biggest contribution here of what they'd like to be while also being able to be the biggest contribution they can at home? So not everyone will have the same goals, the same dreams, the same aspirations, and being aware and appreciative of each person's aspirations is important. And so really, it's about finding a connection, clarifying our goals, and making sure that we see an alignment between our company vision, mission, values, and our own mission, vision, values. And a lot of that is from an employee standpoint, from our personal standpoint, is just take some time to reflect. I mean, I'd encourage that if you watch this, find 10 minutes today or 10 minutes this week and actually prioritize your time, set it aside. I just want you to sit down and maybe think about those 12 different areas of the Dream Manager. Maybe think about even what are your own values. And I just want you to sit down and really write something out. Reflect. Where am I really going? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to go professionally, personally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, whatever it is, all those areas. And really sit down and make sure that you understand your goals. Because when it comes to employee engagement, motivation, loyalty, right? It's all about, if we can get people to understand that when they work here, when they engage here, when they prosper and have success here, they have it in other areas. And like I said, not everyone's going to be that the success is about getting the next raise. Some people, that's not what it's about. So if you can clearly understand what people appreciate, what they're going for, that matters all the difference. And take it from the Dream Manager. It can be as simple as purchasing your first car, but supporting an employee along their journey, even on their personal side, is so rewarding both as a leader, as an organization, and then for that employee. And the level of ownership, engagement, motivation that you will feel from a person who feels heard, respected, cared for will be astronomical versus your time in that. So really, make sure that we're clarifying our goals, both personally, professionally, in teams, in projects, and then we're aligning those things together, whether it be a project that we're aligning to the bigger company goal or a performance review where we're trying to learn more about the individual. And we want to align that to why do we work for this company? What is this company doing to really support you in this process? So unlocking that employee engagement key is so important by really understanding that we need to clarify and align our goals. Thank you very much for spending some time here. Remember that these are every Tuesday and that we have a LinkedIn site where you could definitely go search us, Leap Training Coaching, and we put out lots of content and things like this. So I'd appreciate you following, check it out, and come back next week. We're going to be focusing again, moving past employee engagement next time and really starting to focus on some new areas, which I'm very excited about. So I'll see you next week. Thank you.